Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The subject of this discourse today is Rathavinita Sutta. It's a continuation. The first part of the sutta has been already discussed. That is, in the last two discourses we dealt with the nature of a saint, of an enlightened person, who having attained to spiritual freedom from the bondage of worldly existence, reflects the nature of the dimension of freedom, which means Nibbana. So last time we mentioned, last two discourses, where we mentioned about the Venerable Mantaniputta, Punya Mantaniputta, how he was literally the embodiment of an enlightened saint. And he became an exemplar of the path to spiritual deliverance. So today we'll be talking about the path itself. Now in Dhammapada, there is a verse, there are three verses actually about this, what we are now mentioning about path. By path is meant Vishuddhi Magga, the path of purification. Spiritual development and perfection is a process. It is a process of purification which also means perfection. Purification and perfections are the two ways of describing what exactly happens with spiritual transformation. Now by purification is meant that where you can't, you take away every dirt, so there is nothing left. You can't take anything out of it, out of something. In this case, the mind. And perfection means where you can't add anything. And both conceptually mean the same thing. You see, where you can't add anything because it is perfect, is absolutely pure. It has attained the fulfillment, the consummation of its of the particular state in which it is. And perfection is where you can't add any more. It's complete. It's total development and perfection. So these two terms really mean the same thing, but for explaining how this, you see, when one attains Nibbana, which means a state of deliverance or freedom from all worldly, freedom from the sufferings of all worldly existence. Now this freedom also means the same. That is to say, you are free because you are perfect. You are free because you are pure, totally. So a person who attains enlightenment, who has attained Nibbana. Now, last time we explained about Nibbana in three different levels. So today we won't go into that. But it is the dimension of freedom which is unconditioned by anything. What do I mean by unconditioned? Everything in the world is conditioned. Everything that stands for worldly existence and suffering, that means subject to karma and its fruit, which is punarjanma. Now, in this life you are born due to your karma of the past. A karma has a potency, has a power, and that power brings about the perpetuation of existence. That is rebirth. And so long you are in a state of existence, and it is perpetuated by the process of rebirth, so long you are subject to rebirth, so long you are also subject to performing further karma. Because when you are reborn with a store of karma, so to say, with the mind carries. Mind is the carrier of the store of karma, karmic forces, or karmic potentials, or potency. So this potency manifests. The word potency by its very nature shows that something which has to manifest in some form. It is in a dormant form now as a potency, but it must come out, it must manifest. And that rebirth is the manifestation of a particular karma, a karmic force. And having arrived in a particular plane of existence, thereafter you again keep on acquiring karma and accumulating karma by three means, by kayena, vacha, manasa, bodily, verbal, mental. Everything one does has a power. Everything one says has a power behind. Everything one thinks has a power behind. This must be clearly understood. And if the power is a negative power, it is devastating, it is destructive, it causes suffering of all kinds. If the power is constructive and wholesome, noble, then it means evolving further from a state to a further more refined state. It's a process of refinement and perfection. So you see, when you practice Sila, for instance, you are bringing about a kind of refinement of the mind. You are purifying the defilements or the impurities which are in the mind, which gets activated, which it may remain in a dormant form, but that impurity gets activated and manifests in the form of an action. When that happens, when the mental action or thinking process is translated into bodily action or verbal or speech, that becomes even more serious. It carries a greater force, because it is now the potency has been manifested. So this goes on. Now after being born, you keep on doing karma. Somehow or other life is such that you are bound to get involved in some action from morning till night. Nobody remains just dumb doing nothing. The moment you get up, you wake up. From that time the mind gets activated and the process goes on. So, till the end of life, one keeps on doing. One is involved, either in good or in bad karma. That being so, it is something like a big tank, a water tank, where you have got an inlet and you have got also an outlet. From the inlet you put in, let's say the tank has a lot of dirt in it, dirty water. So you keep on putting clean water. After a time, all that dirt thing inside the tank, there will be this kind of revolution going on. A great formative activity. Now, eventually, if the good water clean water is kept up without any bad, dirty water coming in again, then the tank eventually gets completely cleaned up. All the bad water, the dirty water is out from the outlet, and once it is out from the tank, you see the tank is clean, and further you see the environment in the tank itself inside also is cleaned up. So once that happens, then the tank, this is just an analogy. So something of that kind happens in the mind, at the mental level, when one is engaged in Sila. So Sila, or the practice of virtue, by means of which manifests in the form of a virtuous conduct. One completely renounces voluntarily. Nobody tells him or her to do this or that, just by knowledge and vision. What is meant by knowledge and vision? See, when a person is conscious, that is, the Vijnana Khandha, it is called, you see, the consciousness, aggregate of consciousness, which is the most subtle part of our personality. Ultimately, you see, from the standpoint of ultimate truth, there is no such thing as man or woman, or an Indian or a Japanese. These are names given to identify a person. They are, you see, just some concepts are created by mind, and these concepts are translated into these naming and all that sort of thing. And the whole, the way we live is how we have organized our living mode, the mode of living. And to do that, we have to coin words and conceptualize those words and give, you see, a meaning to them. And then you begin to think that what you have invented in the form of a concept or a name and all that is real. That there is a thing called an Indian. But who is it, an Indian? The Venerable Nagasena, a great Arhat in the Peshawar area of modern Pakistan, he was there. That was a great Buddhist center, now completely the center of violence. Now there, he meets the Greek king Minandros, who is known as Milinda in Pali. That is a name given to him by our monks only. He was ruling in that area. He belonged to the Alexandrian, you see, group when they attacked India and so on. Now, he was asked, this Greek king was very, very extremely well known as a debater, not only a king but a debater. So in this work called Milinda Panna, the questions of King Milinda, some wonderful things are there about teachings of the Buddha. And one such is, when he invited the Venerable Arahat, he said actually he wanted to see him, but the Arahat was in a vihara there, so he had to go and see him there, the king. Instead of Arahat coming to him, he said, no, I change, I must respect him. So he goes there with all his paraphernalia of royal paraphernalia. And then he meets and he says, Venerable Sir, By what name is the Venerable known? Well, they call me as Nagasena. What is Nagasena, Venerable Sir? Is it your nose, your eye, your tongue, your leg, your hand, your head, your body, or your mind, or what? Which is Nagasena? It's a good question. I will give you an answer by way of a simile, and you answer, you find your answer there. He said, how did you come king here? How did you arrive here in this vihara? Oh, I came, you see, in a royal chariot, a royal vehicle, and with my, you see, group of ministers and officers and all these people, a whole retinue of people, a large retinue in fact. Then, oh, you came by that Ratha, that chariot. What is that Ratha? King immediately understood, my goodness, this is a brain, nobody can, you see, it's not easy to cow down such a brain. So let me be careful. He says, come on, answer. He said, well, yes, I came by this. It is, the Ratha is a combination of number of parts. There are the wheels, then the body of the vehicle, and so on, the different parts. All put together is called Ratha. So it's a name. Oh, so that's your name. And so when he said, the moment he gave this example, he said, sir, he bowed down like this, he said, sir, I have understood. It's a great thing. Thank you very much. Then he went on asking one after the other, all sorts of questions, very important questions indeed. So now, in this purification and all that I was telling you, and the example given of purification and perfection, they mean the same thing. In one, you can't take out anything out of it because there is no more dirt. So, last time we mentioned about the Venerable Mantaniputta. These monks from Kapilavattu, they came to Buddha, Radhagara, and he says, who is that monk who is very famous and has a very great reputation of being very pure and noble and the very embodiment of spiritual life, or the Vishuddhi Magga, the path of purity. So he said, Venerable Sir, and then Buddha defined what he meant by the, you see, the embodiment or the exemplar of the path. He said he must be, being himself an extremely, a person of little want, no want at all, and contented, and so on, a lover of seclusion rather than crowd and noise, and all 10 such attributes he put. Then these monks said, yes, there is one Bhante, and he is known as Punya Mantaniputta. So now, after hearing all that I have already explained in the last discourse, so we won't repeat those things anymore. But today, what happened next, that I am going to take up. So now, whenever Sariputta was sitting in that meeting, in that discourse, and what the Bhagavan asked to these monks, and their reply, he says, what a lucky, what a wonderful, very, very fortunate monk indeed, that in the very presence of the Buddha, his brothers in holy life come and praise him and say, you see, point by point tell everything, all the attributes and so on. So, then after some time they went to Acharya Buddha and Rathavinita Bhante both. There these monk, Mantani Putta, about whom you see such a reputation had come to Rajagaha. So he appears. He wanted to see the Buddha, so he wanted to have the blessing, he came there. So a monk went and told, yes, you have been praising to Venerable Sariputta. He said, you have been praising him to the sky. All those 10 attributes you have been telling, and it's very wonderful because they reflect the nature of Nibbana. Nibbana is the ultimate state of perfection and purity and freedom. Freedom because there is no bondage. And bondage, there is no bondage because there is no impurity. Bondage comes from impurity. If your actions are impure, improper and wrong and ethically distorted and so on, then only you are liable to all kinds of blame and you have no freedom. Then you have remorse, you have sense of guilt, and your mind is all the time burdened by that and no freedom at all. But if you are free from all that, by practice of Sila you bring about a purification of the mind, and thereby you are bringing about perfection of the mind. What does it mean by perfection of the mind? Perfection of the potentials in the mind, the spiritual potential as such. Now, in KGF here, quite close by from Bangalore, there used to be a very big mine, a gold mine. Now we don't hear much about that. But now it was, they found out several veins of gold. And then they started this operation. And a big mining, you see, operation started and they exploited the gold, etc. And when they found everything, taken every bit of gold out of it, out of that mine, out, there was nothing more left, you see. So, but then they added other things to turn that gold field into something else. Some industry, and it continued. So when you purify the mind, you are also at the same time perfecting it. Perfecting some of the potential, the powers and the endowments of the mind. What are those? Now, for instance, you perfect mindfulness. To begin with a simple thing. Unless you are mindful, you just cannot meditate. Unless you are mindful, you just cannot perform Shila or any good action, meritorious action in a proper way. It is because people are constantly distracted. Constantly the mind keeps on roaming and here, there and wandering, that you get involved in evil, involved in akusala karma, in unwholesome action, and thereby accumulate a negative potency which can lead you to a very painful state of existence. To the apayas, last time we mentioned about the 4 types of subhuman, very painful states of existence. The Sotapanna alone is free from all those. He can never be born there. Once you are liberated, you see, from certain bandhanas, sangyojana they are called. Sangyojana means that which bind you like this. Bind one life with another life. Bind the mind with the external world. So this binding, this fetter, Sangyojana means in English fetter. It binds, it ties you. So these bandhanas are the ones that keep us tied down to samsaric existence, to the wheel of samsara, wheel of life. So if you want to get out of this wheel of life, and by getting out, what happens is you are freed from the wheel of life, means freed from birth, death and rebirth, because the karmas are over. All the bad karmas are over, just like the tank, for instance, the tank analogy. You clean up the tank of all dirt. Finished. The tank has pure water and potable, good water, it can be used, not the bad ones. So there you are. So the mind has to be purified, first of all the impurities which grow together with karma, with action. What is action? Threefold action. Kayena, Vacha, Manasa. Now when you say Panatipata Veramani, I renounce, I abstain voluntarily on my own. No command of any god or a guru or a person or a religion or this, nothing. Just my own volitional action. Now once you do that, renounce it, you are also developing certain positive virtues like metta. Now the saint, last time we mentioned that the saint has no ichha, no desire. Very good. He has emptied the mind completely of desire and so on. So, and then he also loves, he is contented fully, he doesn't care for anything in the world. And then he also doesn't like to be like crowd at all. He likes to be alone, aloof and secluded, not because of any personal selfish this thing, no. He is engaging his mind in higher things by being secluded, by loving seclusion. You can engage the mind in higher spiritual practice, higher spiritual cultivation of spirituality. Once you do that, then you see the seclusion provides all the conditions where you can develop. So that is why next point, the attribute is called, he is very, very energetic. Viryarambha. And he praises all the time that it must be energetic. Don't be dependent on anything. Be dependent on your own resources, which is your mind, which is your effort, which is your mindfulness, which is your saddha, faith, wisdom-rooted faith, not blind faith. Faith, there are 5 spiritual faculties known as indriya. Saddha, faith, that is wisdom-based conviction, and therefore you develop confidence out of conviction. Where you are convinced about the goodness of a thing and about your purity, you have a certain conviction. And no one can, it's so firm and nobody can move you from that. So that's a powerful mental, spiritual faculty and spiritual potency. Now when you undertake the metta, the first sila, metta is one such. Very powerful indeed. We are now here, all of you are here. All of us are now in the vihara. How come that we are here? We must be grateful to our parents. The amount of trouble the mother undertook when we are in the womb. 10 months, my goodness, day in, day out, she slogged just to protect us, protect the baby. Then the baby comes out after parturition. And again the whole thing goes on. The baby is totally helpless and dumb. He can't even talk. He can't even walk. Now all that stage we have passed through, but we have forgotten, and we are not grateful to our parents very often. It's a horrible dussila, dirt, mental impurity of selfishness and all that. So if you cultivate gratitude towards your mother, just think about the good things you have received from her. Day in, day out, until you are able to be on your own. That's many years. Then the sacrifice of the father, all the money that he has brought, you see, for my education and this, that and so on. So, these are all moral, aspect of life, a part of Shila. So when you follow the Pancha Shila, you are purifying the mind. And this gratitude will be visible and verifiable. You will have a son who is extremely loyal to you, or a daughter. So, when you say potency, you are purifying the mind, you are also perfecting those qualities. Saddha, wisdom-based faith, virya, tremendous energy, effort, and sati, mindfulness, samadhi, ability to concentrate the mind and to tranquilize the mind. Tranquilize, that is the word. How many people enjoy mental peace? Ask yourself. With all the education, with all your money, with all your power and position, how much peace do you enjoy? That is a very, very legitimate question to ask. Because one day all of us have to go. And if the mind is not tranquilized and calm, and at the time when we have to go, and the mind is distracted by something else, my goodness, woe be to you. You don't know where you will be reborn. Suppose in a country like Pakistan, you go and be reborn there. Horrible, no peace at all. Or we are born in, say, another culture where this knowledge of Dhamma, knowledge of karma and punarjanma, all these things are just not there. I spent a lot of time in the West, and then I saw people simply don't understand this thing. You tell them, now they have heard the word karma and all that, and quite a lot of people do believe and they practice very earnestly, no doubt. But then majority people, they have absolutely no idea. They think, God is doing something, He is doing everything, He has created you, so He has the will, the divine will to do whatever He wants with you, and you are just a puppet. What a life. Yet this life need not be a puppet life. It can be extremely free and independent and delivered and very, very rich mind indeed. Can help the world in 100,000 ways. All that will happen when the mind is purified and then perfected as a result of purified of certain virtues, exalted virtues. Dana is one exalted virtue. Shila, one exalted virtue. The capacity to renounce the wrong thing, bad thing, is a great, it's a perfection. Parami. So there are 10 paramis that get, developed, perfected, and then by perfecting the paramis, you are you see, doing just one simple thing, namely you are transforming your mind. Well, see, until you have fulfilled the paramis, don't think of attaining the state of enlightenment as called the Lokuttara Magga and Phalachitta. There are 8 Lokuttara Magga and Phalachitta in 4 stages of deliverance, freedom. Sotapanna is free from the apaya, as I mentioned. Sakadagami is free 6 times. Sotapanna can be born 7 times and now. But once he has succeeded in weakening the further fetters, Lobha, Dosa, Moha, etc., then he can be born only once. So the benefit of not being born in a situation where you don't know what is going to happen is a great benefit, great freedom. And the mind also is perfected to that extent when it is purified. So then the Anagami, absolutely nothing, no, totally freed from Kama Loka. That's Nibbana from Kama Loka. Just as Nibbana from Apaya. So similarly, when the Arhat is totally free from all states of existence, samsara. Existence means coming again and again, dying again and again, being reborn again. So those who have gone beyond that, transcended. So this Nibbana is a transcendental state. Once you are in that dimension, so to say, then you are completely free and independent. You are not, you see, mind is fully developed, all the potentials are very highly developed, and you are then able to serve the world in the very best sense of the term. I don't think anybody has ever served the world better than the Buddha or the Arhats that we have. So this, the way hundreds of thousands of people have been delivered from samsara after Bhagavan Buddha appeared in this world. That is why the Buddha's name scintillates in the mind of the people. It's brightly, it warms up the heart of the developed people. Because of the immense benefit. He is the greatest benefactor that you can think of. From Venerable Sariputta, his chief disciple, up to our time, literally many billions of people have become liberated, freed from all the sufferings of the world. So now, spirituality, you see the Mantani Putta, all the 10 attributes, you see, there that he has attained all that is through a process of cleansing, purifying. That is the story of a nun. She was living in a forest hut, doing meditation and nothing else. But she had lot of impediments bothering her mind. So she could not make much progress in her meditative practice and was dejected one day, very totally said, well, I'll go back then and all that. Then she said, no, let me have a wash. Let me have a dip in the river, by the side only there. And then let me see what I may go back. So now this monk, she saw that a huge elephant was brought in by a Mahout. And that Mahout chap was a young boy, almost a boy, like very young person. And this Mahout comes and brings the elephant. He has got some instrument in his hand, and he gives a command. He says, "Come on, get in." He has got a language of his own, the elephant language, and the elephant knows it. So get in, he said. And the elephant quietly, docile, just put the head down and went into the river. He said, "Come on, further, go, go." And like that he kept on giving his orders like a big military colonel to his subordinates. And then he says, "Come on the knee, down." So that huge creature got just down. He soaked himself in the water. And the river is passing. He's more or less full under the water now. Only his trunk is up. Then he rubs him thoroughly. He has got certain instruments, he rubs him thoroughly. And then he gets up, he says, "Hey, come on, up." Up he goes. And that water simply splashes and up. He says, "Come on, up in the bank." So he comes to the bank. Then he says, "Come on your knee. Give me your knee," he says. So he gave the knee like that, you see, and he jumped on the knee. He is there and jumped up on his neck, sat down there with that tool in his hand, and he ordered him, he said, "Come on, up you go." So he went up the bank and so on. My goodness, this nun, when she saw this, she said, "My, such a huge creature, an elephant, and this is a tiny little fellow. He could have, if he had just one leg, he can give a good kick to him, he will turn into a butter." Yet he had the command, the power, his mind is far more powerful than the mind of the elephant. That's a brute creature having no control over the mind. He is just an instinctive creature, has no capacity to, control the mind or will by using intention, the power of intention, another potential. So, intentionally achieve something, whatever you want to achieve. That is karma again, intentional action. So she said, "My, now I am going to meditate." She went back and then she became Arhat that very day. So these are examples, we have examples galore in our books. In a book called Theory Gatha, there are all these things are given. So these theories, elder nuns, they are like, we call them mothers, holy mothers. Now, such wonderful examples they have left. So the tradition of Theravada goes on based on all this. So it's worthwhile reading the biographies of these great ones and be inspired and try to achieve purity by perfecting your actions to begin with. So the process of perfection, there are 7 distinct stages. Here I will read out the text and then take it up for analysis in the next. Now Venerable Sariputta, after hearing the praise and all that, now he is informed that he is here now and he has gone to Andhavana, the blind man's vana, which is absolutely dense and dark, and there he goes in the afternoon after his pindapata, after his food, and sits down under a tree. So whenever Sariputta was told, and he follows him, and he goes by the same road, and then following him and sees him sitting on a tree, under a tree, and he does the same thing himself, sitting on some other tree, and then just plunge into meditative absorption, samadhi, both of them. And then they get up around 4:30 or 5 when the Bhagavan would give the discourse, and then they will go on here. So whenever Sariputta goes there, at nearly, let's say about around 5 o'clock, and gets up and sees that he is just up, he has emerged from the samadhi. He goes and sits down before him and does not announce about who he is, or he doesn't even ask him his name. And he says, well, this is a dialogue between the two spiritual giants. 7 stages of purification, bringing about transformation of the mind, which is called enlightenment, Nibbana. Nibbana, step by step. At one stage, you are freed from your mental fetters, bandhanas, and that is reflected in your karmic process. You can never be born. Once you become a sotapanna, you can never be born in a lower plane and suffer all the sufferings of lower plane. And the mind cannot also go down lower. The lower the plane, the mind too is affected, it goes down. So, on one hand, subjectively you are liberated, on the other, objectively you are delivered from rebirth. Great deliverance. So here, the 7 stages, Venerable Sariputta asks, he says, Venerable brother, is the holy life lived under the Blessed Lord? Yes, Venerable brother, he replied, Mantaniputta. Then Sariputta Bhante said, but brother, is it for the purpose of purification of virtue, Shila, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? Venerable Mantaniputta simply said flatly, no brother, no. Not for Sila Visuddhi alone, no. Then, is it for the purpose of purification of mind, from where all actions grow, whether pure or impure actions, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? Venerable Mantaniputta Bhante said, no brother. Then, is it for the purpose of purification of view, the third purification, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? No, brother. Then is it for the purpose of purification of overcoming doubt, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? No, brother. Then is it for the purpose of purification of knowledge and vision of what is the right path and what is the wrong path, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? No, brother. Then is it for the purpose of purification of knowledge and vision? Now this one, please keep in your mind, note this, knowledge and vision. What does it mean? It has very, very profound significance. And unless it is understood properly, spiritual development will not occur. So then, is it for the purpose of purification of knowledge and vision of the way of practice? Now, patipada, practice, that the holy life is lived under the Blessed Lord? No, brother. Then is it for the purpose of purification of knowledge and vision that the holy life is lived? Just pure knowledge and vision by themselves. Pure. That's a higher spiritual experience. Pure. That means the direct knowledge of Nibbana and the direct vision of Nibbana. Actually see. So vision means that which you are seeing something. So to see something you must have different types of eye. You can't see with your charma chakshu, with your the bodily eye, this thing. Nor can you see even with your intellectual, your mental eye. Nor even you can see with your understanding, deeper insight, not in that. Further and so on. So now, so there are altogether 5 different types of eyes. With those 5 different eyes you see the higher things that you have achieved, and you are absolutely confident that you are liberated. No mistaking, mistaking whatsoever. Then is it for the purpose of purification of knowledge and vision of Nibbana that the holy life is lived under the blessed Lord? He says no. Even that no. Now, brother, says Venerable Sariputta. Now, brother, when asked the first question, is it for the sake of purification of virtue, you said no. Then mind, you said no. Then you see purification of vision, purification of the mind and the view, that is actual understanding thing with insight. You see, view refers to insight into reality behind everything. So that, you said no. Then is it overcoming doubt, etc.? No. Is it knowledge and vision of what is the right and the wrong path? No. Then is it the purification of knowledge and vision of the ultimate? You can do that knowledge, can get that knowledge at the intellectual level also. There are plenty of pundits, there are the professors I saw in American universities. My goodness, they are like walking libraries. But they live a very wretched life. They get involved with their students. So, you see, now, therefore it is not enough that you have mere knowledge and vision of, you see, intellectually of the Nibbana, no. It must be transcendental knowledge, transcendental vision. So he said no. Well then, he says, for the purpose of what then, brother, is the holy life lived under the blessed Lord? Brother, it is for the purpose of attaining Nibbana. And what is that? The final freedom from clinging. Samsaric existence is characterized by clinging, attachment to things, which occurs because of craving. So, that the holy life is being lived by me under the blessed life. So when he said this, then he said another set of a number of questions. So we'll now take that up next week. This much should be enough for today. And please think deeply about this. You read books, you have got plenty of books here, and find out the 7 Vishuddhis, 7 levels of purification, and therefore implying 7 levels of perfection of the mind. Mind is the tool by which you get freedom, not the body, not anything else. So, this being the tool, This has to be perfect. So we will discuss further about these things in the next. May the grace of Bhagavan Buddha, the great benefactor, the light of Dhamma, the Surya of Dhamma, bless us with that knowledge, with that sincerity and with that earnestness by which we will know it. May you all be happy. Sukhino bhavantu.